listen. I'm sorry I don't pay you no attention. Tonight I'ma show you off. Tonight I'ma show you
What's up, slackers? Welcome to Book Cheats. Today we're going to be talking about To Kill a Mockingbird, chapter 22. The beginning of this chapter happens directly after the last chapter, and Jem is super pissed because Tom Robinson just lost the case for his life. Jem's fists were clenched, and he was crying in anger, and he was repeating,
"It ain't right."
Jem, Scout, and Dill passed the happy crowd, and Jem kept repeating this phrase,
"It ain't right."
Atticus was outside waiting for the children underneath a light pole, and Scout said that Atticus looked completely normal, as if nothing had happened, and his clothes were back to normal, completely buttoned up, and he looked as clean cut as normal. When the children met up with Atticus, Jem cried to Atticus,
"It ain't right, Atticus."
Atticus consoled his son and said, "No, son, it's not." The four of them walked home in a sort of daze, Atticus, Jem, Scout, and Dill. And when they got back, Aunt Alexandria was still awake waiting for them. Scout said that for the first time in her life, she saw Aunt Alexandria be nice. And Alexandria said to Atticus, "I'm sorry, brother." Scout thought it was kind of weird because Alexandria had never called Atticus her brother, even though they were siblings. And Scout wondered if Atticus had done something wrong to have lost the case. Aunt Alexandria asked Atticus how Jem was coping with the whole situation, and Atticus said that he'd be alright. Aunt Alexandria said that the children shouldn't have been at the trial in the first place, and Atticus defended letting them stay there and said that they needed to learn at an early age how to cope with the racism of the South. Atticus sort of blames himself and Aunt Alexandria and says that he and his peers had obviously created that environment of the South, and the children needed to learn how to deal with it. Atticus asked Aunt Alexandria not to wake him in the morning. And Aunt Alexandria thought that Atticus was being really bitter about the case, and Atticus said that he'd be alright, that he just needed to mentally get over it. As Atticus was heading to bed, Jem stopped Atticus and asked Atticus why the jury completely ignored all the evidence by saying,
"How could they have done it?"
Atticus responded sort of depressingly by saying, "I don't know, but they did it. They've done it in the past, and they will do it." Atticus said that it seemed like only children were sad about the case, and he said this to sort of leave a seed of change in Jem and Scout. The next morning, Atticus seemed to be back to his normal self. And Atticus was super surprised because the breakfast table was full of food. Calpurnia explained that Tom Robinson's dad had left them a chicken, and the rolls on the table were from Estelle, who lived down the street. Jem came into the dining room, and he had a look of despair on his face, and Atticus comforted Jem and told Jem not to lose hope because they still had an appeal, and there still was a chance for Tom Robinson. Calpurnia told Atticus and the children to look what was around the corner in the kitchen, and everybody went into the kitchen, and the entire countertop was full of food. Calpurnia explained that it was from appreciative families because Atticus tried to defend Tom as hard as he could and was pleading for Tom's life. Atticus began to tear up because he knew that everybody in town was really poor and it was a huge sacrifice for them, and he knew what his actions meant to the community. Calpurnia asked if it was okay for Atticus to accept these gifts, and Atticus said that it was okay, but to tell everyone that he said thank you and to not give him any more food because he knew it was a huge sacrifice. After this, Atticus left for town. Dill came to the house and said that Aunt Rachel had been stressed out and was really cranky that day because she had been up half the night. And Dill said that his Aunt Rachel every morning drank a pint of beer, and because of him, she began to drink 2 pints of beer every morning. Aunt Alexandria said that it was inappropriate to talk about those things so openly. And Jem told Dill that he needed to start telling his Aunt Rachel whenever he was going to leave, otherwise they would send him back to Missouri. Jem, Scout, and Dill went to play outside, and when they went outside, they looked across the street, and Miss Mowdy, Miss Stephanie Crawford, and Mr. Avery were all talking about the trial. Miss Mowdy called the children over, and when the children got over, Miss Stephanie Crawford couldn't help herself because she was so gossipy and began to attack the children with questions. Miss Crawford asked if Atticus had put the children up to sitting with the black people and how they felt about Atticus losing the case. And Miss Mowdy interrupted Miss Stephanie's questions and said that she just invited the children over for some cake and that it was rude of Miss Crawford to ask children so many questions. The children went inside and sat down to eat some cake, and Miss Mowdy only had 2 small cakes this time. And Scout thought that Miss Mowdy must have forgotten about Dill, but Miss Mowdy cut Jem a huge slice from the adult cake. And Scout realized that her cutting Jem a big piece of cake was sort of a rite of passage of Jem, that Miss Mowdy considered him an adult now. Miss Mowdy sat the children down and explained that Macomb County had a dark side to it.
I want to take you to my playroom.
But that there was a lot of good people in Macomb County, even though there was this evil there. Jem was still super passionate about the case, and he interrupted Miss Mowdy and asked her who. Jem said that nobody helped out with Tom, and pretty much said that everybody in Macomb County was crummy. Miss Mowdy explained that there were many people helping Tom. Miss Mowdy said that Atticus, for one, for trying so hard in the case, was one person who helped Tom. And they themselves, Miss Mowdy and the children, helped Tom. And the black community also tried to help Tom. And Miss Mowdy said that even Judge Taylor helped Tom because Judge Taylor was supposed to appoint a man by the name of Maxwell Green to defend Tom. But Judge Taylor ignored seniority and called on Atticus because he knew Atticus would actually try to save Tom's life. Jem complained about the fixed jury and said that when he grew up he was going to fix things. The children left the house, and Miss Stephanie Crawford and Mr. Avery were still going at it, talking about the case. And Dill told Jem and Scout that he planned on being a clown when he was older. And Dill said that he was going to be a new kind of clown that rather than getting laughed at, would just stand in the center of a room and laugh at everybody for their stupidity and ignorance. Suddenly, Miss Rachel came up to talk to the children, and Miss Rachel told the children to play in the backyard. And when Jem asked her why, Miss Crawford interrupted and said that earlier that day, Mr. Ewell and Atticus met at the post office, and Mr. Ewell spat in Atticus's face and told Atticus that he was gonna get him, even if it took him the rest of his life.
I'll get you, hey Steve, if it's the last thing I do.
And that concludes the chapter. Thanks so much for watching Book Cheats. Please leave that like and subscribe. If you guys have any questions from your homework, leave a comment down below, and I'll get to it as soon as I can. You guys have an awesome day. Slack on.